For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
In the brutal winter of 1944, 20-year-old CPL, Jamal Whitaker, an infantryman, was cut off from his unit deep within Germany's Huichen forest. Amidst a snowstorm and intense firefight, radio contact failed. He never returned. Despite an extensive post-war investigation and tireless efforts to locate the missing CPL, Whitaker vanished without a trace. For 77 years, his family lived with agonizing uncertainty, left to wonder about his fate in that unforgiving landscape. Then, in 2021, on a remote slope above a logging track, a remarkable discovery was made: the preserved remnants of a collapsed shelter. What lay beneath would challenge everything known about his final moments. This is the complete investigation into what happened to CPL, Jamal Whitaker. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. In the bitter winter of 1944, the Huichen forest became a crucible for American and German forces. Its ancient, skeletal trees, thick undergrowth, and treacherous ravines transformed into a landscape of relentless, close-quarters combat. The cold was a weapon as potent as any artillery shell, and the dense canopy often obscured the sky, plunging the battlefield into a perpetual twilight. It was within this unforgiving environment that CPL, Jamal Whitaker, a 20-year-old infantryman, found himself embroiled in the brutal fight for every yard of frozen earth. The day of his disappearance began like many others, with the grinding rhythm of advance and engagement, but it quickly devolved into a maelstrom of chaos. A sudden, ferocious snowstorm descended upon the forest, blanketing the battlefield in a thick white shroud. Visibility plummeted to mere feet, transforming the already disorienting terrain into an impenetrable maze. Amidst the swirling snow and the concussive roar of gunfire, Whitaker's unit found itself locked in a desperate firefight. The blizzard intensified, muffling the sounds of battle, yet amplifying the chilling isolation within its whiteout conditions. In the ensuing melee, the lines of engagement blurred. Whitaker, disoriented by the driving snow and the relentless enemy fire, became cut off from his squad. He was a single point of resistance, now isolated in a vast, hostile wilderness. Desperate attempts to re-establish contact proved futile. His radio crackled with static before falling silent altogether. The last tenuous link to his comrades, and to any hope of immediate rescue, was severed. As the storm raged, swallowing the sounds of combat, the unit was forced to press on, unable to conduct an immediate search in the blinding blizzard and under constant threat. CPL, Jamal Whitaker, an infantryman fighting for his nation, simply vanished into the Huichen forest. The immediate aftermath offered no answers, only the stark reality of a soldier lost to the elements and the enemy, leaving behind only the chilling silence of an unresolved fate. The forest, a silent witness, held its secrets close as the war continued its relentless, destructive march. The immediate aftermath of CPL, Whitaker's disappearance, was one of grim necessity. Even as the snowstorm intensified, efforts were made to account for every man in the beleaguered unit. Roll calls were conducted under the cover of sporadic fire, and desperate shouts echoed into the whiteout, hoping for a response from the missing infantryman. Yet the chaos of the Huichen forest in 1944 offered little quarter for such endeavors. The primary objective remained survival and engagement with the enemy. Tracking a lost soldier in an active war zone, especially one shrouded by a blinding blizzard and under constant threat of counterattack, was an almost impossible task. Resources were stretched thin, and every available man was needed on the line, focused on the immediate, existential fight. Military protocols dictated that a missing soldier in action be reported swiftly. Initial reports were filed, detailing the last known movements of CPL. Whitaker, the circumstances of his being cut off, and the failure of radio contact. These documents, stark and formal, began to build the official narrative of his vanishing. But without a body, without a trace of personal effects or definitive combat action, the grim reality of a presumed casualty remained an open wound. The dense, treacherous forest, already a formidable adversary to movement in, divisibility, conspired with the deep, fresh snow to erase any immediate evidence of his presence. Every footprint, every disturbed branch, was quickly buried or obscured. The battlefield was a relentless grinder, consuming men and leaving little behind. As the fighting continued and the front lines shifted, the opportunity for a dedicated search dwindled to nothing. The vastness of the Huichin, coupled with the relentless German resistance and the unforgiving winter, ensured that any immediate investigation was futile. CPL. Jamal Whitaker was officially designated missing in action. This status, a haunting bureaucratic label, signified an unknown fate, a persistent question mark in the annals of the war. There was no grave to mark, no definitive explanation for his absence, only the cold, hard fact of his vanishing. The lingering question remained. What had become of the 20-year-old infantryman who had vanished into the snow-choked woods? The war pressed on, but for Whitaker, and for those who remembered him, the silence was deafening, a void filled only by uncertainty. The guns of World War II eventually fell silent, and the world began its slow, arduous process of rebuilding. Decades passed, transforming the ravaged landscapes of Europe. In the Huichin forest, the scars of battle gradually faded beneath new growth. Young saplings matured into towering trees, and the craters from artillery shells softened into gentle depressions, carpeted with moss and fallen leaves. The forest, once a bloody battleground, reclaimed its ancient tranquility, yet it never truly relinquished its secrets. For Corporal Jamal Whitaker, the passage of time brought no answers. His file, like those of thousands of other missing servicemen, became a historical record, a testament to an unresolved fate. Without a body, without a specific location of his last stand, and with no new evidence emerging from the dense, unforgiving terrain, Whitaker's case settled into the chilling stillness of a military cold case. It was a file destined for dusty archives, a name etched onto memorials for the fallen without a known grave. The initial reports, detailing the desperate firefight and the radio silence, remained the only narrative, frozen in time. For generations, the question of what became of the 20-year-old infantryman persisted, a silent ache for those who sought closure, a mystery unsolved by any official inquiry. The Huichin forest, now a seemingly peaceful expanse of natural beauty, continued to stand as a formidable sentinel, holding its silent vigil over the untold stories buried beneath its canopy. 77 years would pass, the forest breathing through seasons of growth and decay, before its deep-seated secrets would finally begin to stir. 77 years had elapsed since CPL. Jamal Whitaker vanished into the snow-choked woods, a duration that saw the world transform beyond recognition. The Huichin forest, too, had changed, its wartime scars largely overgrown, its quiet slopes once again echoing only with the sounds of nature. It was in this seemingly tranquil, yet still formidable landscape of modern-day Germany that an unexpected discovery would finally shatter the long-held silence surrounding Whitaker's fate. In the autumn of what was now the 21st century, the forest remained a place of work and recreation. Hugh Brandt, a seasoned forestry crew chief, was overseeing logging operations on a steep incline above a seldom-used logging track. His crew's heavy machinery cut swathes through the dense growth, disturbing earth that had remained untouched for decades. Separately, and at a different pace, Karen L., an avid metal detectorist, meticulously swept her coil over the leaf-strewn ground, drawn by the faint whispers of history that the forest often revealed. Her focus was on the smaller, more personal relics of the past, It was during one such ordinary day that the incidental find occurred. Neither Brant nor Karen L. were specifically looking for human remains, yet the forest yielded its secret. On a slope above the logging track, where the earth had been subtly disturbed by erosion and the passage of time, a peculiar formation emerged. It was a collapsed roof, clearly man-made, fashioned from woven saplings. Decades of fallen leaves, soil, and organic matter had accumulated over it, forming a protective, almost hermetic seal. This natural blanket had miraculously preserved the fragile structure beneath, shielding it from the elements and the ravages of time for nearly 8 decades. The initial observation was one of curiosity. The interwoven branches were too deliberate to be a natural entanglement. As more leaf litter was carefully brushed away, the outline of a small, enclosed space became discernible. This was not merely a fallen tree or a rock formation. It was unmistakably a shelter, a rudimentary foxhole roof that had given way under the immense weight of time and earth. A chilling realization began to dawn upon the finders. This was a structure from the war, a hidden burrow that had remained undisturbed since the days of bitter combat. Understanding the profound historical implications, and suspecting the potential presence of human remains, the finders made the critical decision to report their discovery to the authorities, recognizing that the Huichin forest had finally begun to yield one of its deepest, most enduring secrets. The report of the collapsed sapling roof quickly reached the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency, an organization dedicated to recovering missing service members from past conflicts. DPAA historian Marta Healy, a specialist in World War II European operations, was swiftly dispatched to the Huichin forest. Her arrival signaled the transition from an incidental find to a full-scale archaeological investigation. Healy and her team established a methodical grid over the discovery site, a careful, systematic recovery operation designed to preserve every fragment of context and every potential piece of evidence. This was not a hasty excavation but a painstaking unraveling of time. While the field team prepared their instruments, Healy immersed herself in historical archives. She meticulously cross-referenced the precise coordinates of the find with period battle maps, unit movements, and casualty reports from late 1944. Her objective was to pinpoint any American units known to have operated in that specific sector, and critically, to identify any soldiers listed as missing in action from those units. The forest, once a chaotic battlefield, was now being mapped with scientific precision, each square meter promising a potential clue. The work at the site itself was slow and arduous. 77 years of accumulated leaf litter, soil, and roots had to be meticulously removed, layer by delicate layer. Every trowelful of earth was carefully sifted, every small fragment examined under the watchful eyes of the team. The goal was to reveal the original structure of the foxhole without disturbing its contents, to reconstruct the final moments of its occupant with forensic accuracy. As the team delved deeper, the first tangible links to the past began to emerge from the soil. Fragments of deteriorating olive-drab fabric, corroded metal buttons, and a broken piece of what appeared to be a military issue mess kit were carefully logged and photographed. These initial findings, though not definitive, strongly suggested the presence of an American soldier. The full extent of the collapsed foxhole was slowly uncovered, revealing a small, crude shelter dug into the side of the slope. Its interwoven sapling roof, once a fragile defense against the elements, had finally given way under the immense weight of time and earth. The interior was a compact space, barely large enough for one man. The methodical work built a compelling case. The location, the type of structure, and the small, scattered artifacts all pointed towards one conclusion. This was the final resting place of a soldier lost in the Huichin campaign, a man whose story had been buried for nearly 8 decades. The air around the excavation site grew thick with anticipation, as the team knew they were on the precipice of uncovering a profound and tragic narrative. The painstaking excavation continued, each layer of soil and debris carefully removed, revealing more of the foxhole's interior. The team worked with a quiet intensity, aware that they were nearing the heart of the discovery. Then, the critical revelation emerged, not as a single, dramatic find, but as a pattern of unsettling evidence. Beneath a thin layer of compacted earth, the archaeologists began to uncover a series of small animal bones. These were not scattered haphazardly, but were arranged in deliberate, circular patterns, clearly identifiable as rudimentary snares. This grim discovery provided the first irrefutable proof that the soldier had not perished immediately in the snowstorm firefight. He had survived, at least for a time, cut off and alone. The presence of the snares spoke volumes of a desperate struggle for survival. The arrangement of the tiny bones, likely from mice or other small forest creatures, indicated that the soldier had endured for days within the confines of his collapsed shelter. He had been attempting to sustain himself against the brutal winter elements and profound isolation, a testament to an indomitable will to live. The Huichin forest, which had offered little quarter in battle, had also provided the means, however meager, for a solitary fight against starvation. Marta Healy and her team meticulously documented each snare, each bone, piecing together a harrowing narrative of resourcefulness born of extreme necessity. As the excavation continued to the very floor of the foxhole, another, even more profound discovery solidified the soldier's identity and commitment. Resting amongst the final layers of earth, partially corroded but still legible, was a military-issue mess tin. Its surface, once gleaming, now bore the faint yet unmistakable marks of charcoal. Scrawled across the dull metal were crude, hand-drawn lines and symbols, a rudimentary map. These were not idle doodles. They depicted enemy passes, patrol routes, and strategic points within the immediate forest. Even in his final, isolated days, facing overwhelming odds and the creeping certainty of his fate, the infantryman had remained focused on his duty, gathering intelligence, perhaps hoping to pass it on, or simply to make sense of his desperate situation. The combined evidence of the snares and the mapped mess tin allowed Marta Healy and her team to construct a vivid and poignant picture of CPL. Jamal Whitaker's final stand. It was a narrative of extraordinary courage, resilience, and the crushing weight of isolation. He had not merely fallen, he had fought to survive, and he had continued his mission until his very last breath. The powerful realization of this solitary, heroic struggle against overwhelming odds resonated deeply with everyone at the site. The silence of 77 years was finally broken, replaced by the ghost of a soldier's unwavering dedication. With the discovery of the mess tin and the snares, the archaeological team had compiled a compelling, albeit tragic, narrative of the soldier's final days. The meticulous recovery of his remains, alongside the personal effects, initiated the final, critical phase: identification. The DPAA's forensic anthropologists worked tirelessly, comparing dental records and skeletal characteristics with the historical files of missing and action soldiers from the Huichin Forest sector. Scientific certainty eventually confirmed what the circumstantial evidence had so strongly suggested. After 77 years, the 20-year-old infantryman lost in the snowstorm firefight finally had a name: Corporal Jamal Whitaker. The full story of Whitaker's disappearance, once a cold case shrouded in the fog of war, was now unveiled in harrowing detail. He had not simply vanished. He had survived the initial chaos, constructing a desperate shelter and fighting for days against the encroaching cold and starvation. His final act, mapping enemy positions on his mess tin, underscored an unwavering commitment to duty even in the face of certain death. It was a testament to his resilience, his courage, and his solitary, valiant stand against overwhelming odds. The identification of Corporal Jamal Whitaker brought a profound and long-awaited closure to his descendants. For families of those missing in action, the decades of uncertainty represent an enduring wound. To finally know the fate of their loved one, to understand the circumstances of his sacrifice, provides a tangible connection to history and a measure of peace. Whitaker's name, once a mere entry on an MIA list, now carried the weight of a fully understood, heroic narrative. His legacy, no longer lost to the anonymity of war, was finally etched into the annals of history, a symbol of the countless individual stories yet to be told. The tireless efforts of individuals like Forestry Crew Chief Hugh Brandt, metal detectorist Karen L., and DPAA historian Marta Healy exemplify the ongoing mission to recover and identify missing service members. Their dedication ensures that no soldier is ever truly forgotten, no matter how much time has passed. The Huitjin Forest, which had held Whitaker's Sector T for nearly 8 decades, continues to yield fragments of its past, a silent witness to the sacrifices made on its slopes. Each discovery reaffirms the enduring importance of remembering those who served and the relentless pursuit of every missing person, a sacred duty that transcends generations and ensures that every story, however long buried, eventually comes to light.